So that's something we were talking a little bit earlier. I am in grad school, and part of that class I'm in, spiritual formation, you have to do an assignment where you write out your whole story. And then you share it with your class, and then they speak into you about what they hear, or they ask you questions. And so that term toxic positivity came out of that group assignment where I shared my story. I shared all the times that this happened to me, however I saw it in this light, or this happened. And then I told myself, you know what, that's okay. Like, don't worry about it. And it came up. And I was really just kind of averting, acknowledging anything that was sad or bad or somewhat stressful or anything that upset me. And so
almost like just not dealing with it.
Yes. Avoiding it.
Yeah.
And so I think it did start when I was a kid. And I mean, my parents are, my dad, my stepmom are fighting all the time. My mom and my stepdad are getting divorced again. And I just wanted some normalcy. Like, I just wanted to be a little kid whose family got along. And so it was almost like, you know what, I'm in control of my narrative. And so I think I was even just like embarrassed to be that kid whose family was just had a lot of dysfunctions. And so I think I almost like pretended, even in front of other people, to be somebody who went to church all the time. And
but what do you think inspired that? Like what because I feel like a lot of times people go through an upbringing like that, and it's easy to become very negative.
Right. So okay, I think there's a few things. The first one, I will say, my family doesn't really grieve. So, for example, my mom had a really, really rough upbringing as well. And she has conditioned herself to start over all the time. Like, she gets divorced again, that's okay. Moves, starts over. I've seen her get emotional, but I never saw her like actually accept the fact that you just got divorced again. Like, this is really sad.
Yeah.
It almost felt like we don't have time for being sad. We have to keep going. And that was what I saw. And even on my dad's side, I remember when my dad's dad passed away, I saw him cry a little bit. And my stepmom's mom passed away really suddenly. And when we scattered her ashes, I was the only one crying. So there's I don't know if that's just part of my family. There's not a lot of time for grief.
Yeah.
Or time to accept something sad. It's always been, you got to keep going. Like, we don't have time for that. You got to pick it up. And so another thing is, my mom would tell me as a kid, stop crying. Anytime I would get upset about something, she would say, stop crying. And so I just, all right, Mom, no time for that. And so I'm not callous. Like, I am a very emotional woman. But as a kid, I think that just became normal for me, is we don't have time for that. You are in charge of seeing the bright side. And maybe even with my mom, because things were at times, like my junior year of high school, we got kicked out. Like, my stepdad was like, you're done. And so we moved in with my grandma and was like, okay, start over. I think I liked the idea that most people saw me as someone who had a very normal life. In a small town, I was able to kind of build an image and get a lot of attention and receive a lot of accolades. And I think I was afraid that if anybody knew how much trauma was going on at home, that I would lose that. And so I kind of liked, it was like an escape from it. escapism is a thing I learned in that exercise with that group that I do a lot, is escaping what some might perceive as a really sad situation.
Yeah.
So I think
So
like a defense mechanism.
yes.
what's the answer to toxic positivity?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to like turn into a negative person.
I don't want to get
right?
depressed.
Right.
So I've been in counseling a couple times now. I have to talk about it. And so I think what I've learned is to be honesty is okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's okay to admit that really hurt my feelings.
Mm.
It's okay to cry. Even if someone tells you to stop crying, it's okay to cry. And there are times where I'm crying and Joseph's like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, I don't either. I just have to cry right now for some reason. I just have to let it out. Whereas before I would shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do a lot of journaling. Before I would not use the words like, I was afraid to tell God, like, I'm really struggling right now, or this is really upsetting me. Whereas now I do my best to be honest with God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would avoid saying I'm having a bad day. I would avoid saying this is really sad. I would avoid that because I felt like if I would acknowledge the fact that this is bad, I was afraid of being ungrateful. I was afraid that I would let God down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When that's a lie, right? I wasn't being honest with myself. I wasn't being honest with God. And then there are times where I will get lost in my thoughts and I'm just being angry and journaling. And at some point have to say, okay, I'm just going to watch a show now. I need to take my mind off of this because it's spiraling. So.